and I just want to say it is great to be here in Buffalo with everyone. I doubt this visit is going to be quite long enough because, as I've recently read, Buffalo is designated as one of the top 7 cities in the nation to visit. So I look forward to more visits here. Recognizing that we have all the board members present today and participating either here in the physical or remotely, I'm pleased to call to order another meeting of the Cannabis Control Board. And I welcome you all who are participating via real-time live stream. So this meeting will be recorded. The recording and transcript will be available to the public on the Office of Cannabis Management's website, cannabis.ny.gov. Just a reminder, information on all of the Cannabis Control Board meetings is available in a designated section of the website. Today's agenda includes several items that we're excited to tackle, and these include welcome and brief remarks. Then we'll move on to a review and approval of the meeting minutes from the Cannabis Control Board meeting held on June 23rd, consideration of conditional adult use dispensary regulations, consideration of conditional adult use retail dispensary application and application window, consideration of adult use conditional cultivator licenses, consideration of medical cannabis program regulations, a report from the Office of Cannabis Management's Executive Director, and then we'll adjourn. I wanted to begin today with giving you a brief update on the Seeding Opportunity Initiative. We currently have 203 approved adult use conditional cultivator licensees. They are cultivating the first regulated adult use cannabis in New York State, and today an additional 20 applicants for conditional cultivator licenses will be considered. A few weeks ago, we announced that Social Equity Impact Ventures LLC, a premier Black-led investment team managed by financial leadership Suzanne Shang, New York City Comptroller William Thompson, and NBA Hall of Famer Chris Webber, was selected as the fund manager for the $200 million Social Equity Cannabis Investment Program. They are already hard at work to ensure that this fund will be ready to support our first conditional retail dispensary licensees. And as I have already mentioned, today we will discuss and review the proposed conditional adult use retail dispensary license regulations and application. As many of you were with us at our last meeting, you know the board voted to open the conditional adult use processor application window on June 28th. The application window closes on August 31st. These conditional processing licensees are necessary to complete the processing, packaging, and distribution of products to the retail dispensaries that are planned to come online through our Seeding Opportunity Initiative by way of the conditional adult use retail dispensary licenses. And with the consideration of the conditional retail dispensary application today, we're poised to have the supply chain connected from our farmers currently growing to processors to retail. So while we're all really excited about the Seeding Opportunity Initiative coming together to allow the first rollout of adult use cannabis in New York State, this is just one part of the broader New York State cannabis market we're developing. We will have many more license opportunities to discuss in the future, as well as supports for those seeking jobs in the industry. At this time, and before we begin the first order of business on the agenda, I'd like to read a brief statement on the Open Meetings Law. As stated at every board meeting, the Cannabis Control Board is subject to the Open Meetings Law to ensure the greatest levels of transparency and public participation in the affairs of government. Due to the ongoing pandemic, we have requested that members of the public join us via video conference, which we will continue to offer to keep the public and members of this body safe. Pursuant to Chapter 56 of the laws of 2022, enacted on April 9th of 2022, and pursuant to the Executive Order 11.7, board members may continue to fully participate in meetings via video conference from locations that are not open to the public, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceedings, and the meetings are recorded and later transcribed. The public was provided with information on how to access this meeting with the public meeting notice distributed to members of the press and posted on the OCM website. A recording of this meeting, together with the transcript, will also be available on the OCM website. Previous recordings, meeting minutes, and transcripts are archived on the OCM website and available by clicking on the designated tab entitled Board Meetings. Let us now shift our attention to the first order of business on our agenda, the review and approval of the meeting minutes from the June 23rd Cannabis Control Board meeting. May I please have a motion to approve the June 23rd board meeting minutes?
So moved.
First, may I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion by any board members? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. So the motion to approve the June 23rd, 2022 board meeting carries. Concerning the next order of business, may I please have a motion to consider and approve Resolution 2022-20, resolution directing the Office of Cannabis Management to file certain proposed conditional adult use retail dispensary regulations.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
prior to taking this vote, I'm going to mute my phone and stop the video while y'all discuss these two next items.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, Member McDaniels has turned off his screen. At this time, I would like to ask, may I have a motion to consider the resolution before us?
I'll make that motion.
May I ask, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And at this time, before we begin our conversation, I'd like to ask our OCM Senior Policy Director, Chief of Staff, is he going to join us? Okay. Chief of Staff, Axel Burnaby, to provide a brief overview of the conditional adult use retail dispensary regulations. Axel?
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a pleasure to be here presenting this to the board today. The conditional adult use retail dispensary regulations, or as we've called them, the CARD regulations, that are being advanced for your approval today are really the cornerstone of the office's Seeding Opportunity Initiative. And it's truly exciting to see that initiative finally take shape. This initiative that combines the work that we've been doing with our conditional farmers and processors that you mentioned just a moment ago in your opening, as well as the $200 million social equity fund, is really a first in the nation. New York is putting social equity and small farmers at the heart of its cannabis industry, as you know well, and this really drives that to its logical extension and completing the supply chain by having retailers that can now sell the products that are being grown right now as we speak throughout the state of New York. The licenses for the card applicants will be awarded to individuals who meet two baseline eligibility requirements. First, they must have a cannabis-related offense that occurred prior to the passage of the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act, that was on March 31st, 2021, or they had a parent, a guardian, a child, or a spouse, or a dependent with a cannabis offense that also occurred pre the passage of the law in March. And then the second criteria is that they have experience owning and operating a qualifying business. Of course, as we've explained in the past when we presented these regulations to you in March, the idea is that we were going to drive the first small cohort of retail dispensaries through social equity entrepreneurs and build on those small business experienced individuals in launching this industry here in New York. The regulations that we're asking you to approve today provide specifics that set out the parameters for the application, which Chris will address shortly, and we are also asking you to approve today so that we can move forward with the application and selection process. The regulations themselves that we're asking you to vote on are being brought to you following the 60-day public comment period and our review and assessment of those comments. During the public comment period, we received more than 600 distinct comments, and we reviewed each and every one of them, and we put out our APC, which sets out our response to all those comments. First and foremost, we're extremely thankful to the members of the public, including local governments, non-for-profits, labor unions, faith-based institutions, elected officials, as well as potential applicants for providing their insight and opinions on these matters. And we've taken a lot of the comments, very good comments, and we've incorporated them into the process that we have building out the broader regulations. Overall, the commenters expressed excitement for the regulations for the launch of our first adult use dispensaries here in New York, and supported the inclusion of justice-involved individuals as the first individuals to have an opportunity to win a retail license. I think that was very well received. The commentators also expressed support for aspects of the proposed regulations, which they believed would maximize undoing the past harms that were caused by the enforcement of cannabis prohibition over the last 30 years in particular. Importantly, a lot of the commenters a lot of the comments we received related to some of the broader social and economic equity plan goals that the cannabis law asks the OCM to implement. And those are being incorporated, but they're not part of this seeding opportunity initiative, which puts CARD in a separate social equity program that is the subject of the regulations that we're talking about today. Those comments are being taken in by our social equity team and our licensing team and our reg drafting team, and are being incorporated so that when we come out with our regulations governing the rest of the licenses, and as you said, the majority of the licenses that will be approved by the OCM and the board, they will be incorporated and included. I'd like to also thank the team at the OCM that has put in countless hours to operationalize these CARD applications. Licensing is an extremely complicated process, and it takes a lot of really dedicated folks to make sure it gets properly incorporated and advances the goals of the regulations. It's been a truly incredible feat, and I really want to tip my hat to everyone on the team for the work they've done. So again, we are thankful for the feedback. All of it was considered before these final regulations are being brought to the board today for ultimate approval. And in the coming days, we will be posting the assessment for public comment, which will be available for viewing on the office's website. That will be next week. And we'll be posting some additional information, including FAQs and other documents that will help individuals in filling out the application that we'll be addressing later in this meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. And thank you again for considering our proposal.
Thank you. However, before we open it up to questions from the board members, I just want to ask our executive director if he would like to add any additional comments to that.
Absolutely. I want to echo, of course, the thanks and the gratitude to both the staff for the incredible work that's been done in driving this process, and to the board for leading in a way that no state and no body has tried to do so before. We'll talk more about the application as the board reviews that application, but did want to highlight, of course, once again, before we, as the board considers this, advancing these regulations of final, the criteria for eligibility, that someone has experienced a cannabis conviction prior to the MRTA, and that they have experience owning and operating a business. We've been going around the state talking about this eligibility criteria, so wanted to take the time as the board considers it to hammer that home, and we're excited for more further discussion from the board.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. I'd like to ask, are there any questions or comments from any of the members, board members?
Just
Jen?
a quick comment, and thank you, Axel and Chris, for that overview. I just wanted to mention, I also wanted to echo my gratitude to the public for the incredibly helpful and insightful comments that you contributed. There were a number of comments that were really seeking clarification about the regulations and about the program more broadly. And I just wanted to assure folks that staff is working, is developing an FAQ. It is going to be a living document, but those clarifications are coming, both in the FAQ and also in guidance. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I would like to ask one question. Axel, you used the term justice-involved individual. That is a term that does not appear in the MRTA. Can you please clarify how you're introducing it here, and what does that mean? What's the definition of that?
Yes, absolutely. So I think, Chris touched on it, and we mentioned it quickly. And I think the wireframes, the application itself goes into significant detail about the kind of convictions that would qualify. So first and foremost, as Chris said, it has to be a conviction that occurred after or before, before the passage of the bill. It has to be a marijuana-related conviction. So it has to be a 221 offense mainly. That relates to this possession or sale of marijuana at the time. But also, recognizing that these are marijuana-related offenses, you'll notice that if you are arrested for a marijuana-related offense, but then convicted for a lesser charge, that will be recognized as well as a justice-involved qualifying offense. So it is worth taking some time to look at the application material and the application form itself and the FAQs. We will be releasing significant amount of information around this application in order to clarify, so folks really have a very good idea of what they're and how they're applying. The application isn't going to go live today. It's going to be next month at some point, where we'll likely announce the actual opening, so people will have some time to look at the specifics and educate themselves on what they need and the documentation that they need to actually substantiate and prove those convictions. So that's thank you for that question, Madam Chair.
Yes. Any other questions or comments? So if there aren't any other questions or comments related to this this resolution before us, I'm going to call for a vote. Ms. Metzger?
Aye.
Ms. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote in favor as well. And Mr. Daniel has recused himself. So it seems that this resolution passes. And now that we have just approved the card regulations and this heavy lift, it's kind of a big lift for us. Thank you very much. We are going to get ready to move on to our next motion, Resolution 20-21. However, I do want to acknowledge that we've been joined by our Assembly Majority Leader, Assemblymember Crystal Peoples-Stokes. Thank you very much. She has been leading the charge for decriminalization and legalization of cannabis in New York State. So we are very humbled to be in your hometown and to have you be a part of this meeting with us, especially as we roll out this Seating Opportunity Initiative. But that brings us to the next resolution before us, everyone. Resolution number 2022-21, a resolution approving a certain application form for a conditional adult use retail dispensary license and ordering that a new application period for a conditional adult use retail dispensary license open and close on such dates as established by the office. May I have a motion to consider the resolution?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask our Executive Director, Chris Alexander, to provide a brief overview of the conditional retail dispensary license.
Thank you.
Application, sorry.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. The board has just approved the regulations for the conditional adult use retail dispensary license, setting the parameters for the application that's now before you. The application requires applicants to submit materials proving a qualifying marijuana-related conviction and the residency of the justice-involved individual at the time, details and documentation related to the applicant's qualifying business or nonprofit, including the nature of the business and associated tax documents, ownership information of the applicant, including financial disclosures for what we're calling true parties of interest, and other basic applicant information to assist the office in its review. The resolution also creates a process to open the card application window when the application system is finalized with our IT office. It requires the office to post on the website at least 14 days prior to the application being open, the opening date notifying potential applicants and the public about this opportunity. I will discuss it more later in the meeting, but we will be and have been all over the state making sure potential applicants are aware of the opportunity and the materials that they'll need to apply. so that they're ready to go when the application window opens, which we expect to happen later this summer. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I will now ask our Chief Equity Officer, Damien Fagan, to also say a couple of words.
Thank you, Chris. I'm very proud to be here today to see the CARD program advanced. This is a landmark equity initiative, and it pushes the envelope of what government can accomplish in cannabis. Although set in motion before my start here, the CARD program is in alignment with the goals of the Social and Economic Equity team at OCM. It is an ambitious start to the important work to come, and my team and I look forward to ensuring its success. One essential feature of any equitable cannabis industry is accessibility. CARD applicants will be pleased to find here an application that is fully online, straightforward, and not overly burdensome. No CARD-eligible New Yorker should feel compelled to hire expensive attorneys or consultants in order to take advantage of this opportunity. In the coming weeks, this agency will work with our partners across the state to ensure applicants have readily available support services to complete their applications. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to Chris.
Thank you, Damien. And I just want to add, again, the amount of work that's gone into this and development of this application, the consideration of prioritizing not only the success of our entrepreneurs, but the success of the industry that we're building. This is an incredibly important application. It's incredibly important work, and I'm just honored to be here. So I wanted to turn it back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments or questions from the board members? Well, I'm sorry, Jen.
I just want to thank staff for all of their hard work on putting all of this together. It's an extraordinary amount of work. So thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to applaud our staff for creating an application that is accessible, that is going to allow the average New Yorker to complete it independently, but more importantly, for also thinking through the process and understanding that somebody and someone that's going to be an applicant will also need assistance, and that we're working to connect with all of our state partners across the state to provide that assistance to applicants or potential applicants. I think that's going to be a really important part of the process. So I do want to say thank you very much for that. And we look forward to seeing that information and rolling it out to the community, because I think that's going to answer a lot of questions and set a lot of people at ease in the process. So if there aren't any other questions, at this time, I'm going to call for a vote. Ms. Metzger.
Aye.
Ms. Garcia.
Aye.
Mr. Perry.
Aye.
And I vote in favor as well. So the motion to approve resolution number 2021, resolution approving a certain application form for a conditional adult use retail dispensary license and ordering that a new application period for a conditional adult use retail dispensary license open and close on such dates as established by the office carries. Yes, that is definitely, we are excited about that. I'm going to say that has been a little bit of a, we're moving, this is a tremendous stride in the right direction. We are definitely rolling out equity, or we're leading with equity here in this state. So I do want us to keep that momentum going, and I don't want to slow us down here, but I want us to, at this time, I'm asking for a motion to please consider and approve resolution number 2022, the resolution issuing certain conditional adult use cultivator licenses, also a part of our seeding opportunity program. May I have the motion to consider the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. I would like to ask Mr. Alexander, could you please provide an overview of these applications?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. We have in front of you 20 additional conditional cultivator applications, which will bring us up to the number of 223 approved conditional cultivators in the state. These, again, for a reminder to the public, are small farmers who have really already started to lay the foundation of New York's cannabis program as the front end of the seeding opportunity initiative that will supply the products that will line dispensaries operated by our equity entrepreneurs. I am so pleased with the work that's already been done to advance this program. This is a unique approach. I'm really thankful that small farmers have had this opportunity to participate in this meaningful way. I'm here to answer any other additional questions that board members may have.
Are there any additional questions related to this resolution? Comments, questions from the board members? Okay. Well, then, hearing none, I guess I will call for a vote. Ms. Metzger?
Aye.
Ms. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote in favor as well. So the motion to approve resolution number 2022, number 2022-22, resolution issuing certain conditional adult use cultivator licenses carries. So now we have officially 203. Is that the number?
20.
I'm sorry, 223 farmers in our state growing for the adult use program. So I'm very excited. This kind of rounds out the loop on our seeding opportunity initiative here in this state. So it's well done. Thank you very much, everyone. The next order of business before us is consideration of proposed medical cannabis program regulations. May I please have a motion to consider and approve resolution number 2022-23 for medical cannabis program regulations?
So moved.
Second.
And seconds, properly moved and seconded. And now, if I may, I'd like to ask Nicole Quackenbush, our Director of Health and Safety, to please provide some additional comments related to these regulations.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and hello, everyone. The proposed medical cannabis regulations were approved by the board back in February to be filed for a 60-day public comment period. That public comment period closed on May 9th, and the office took time to review over 100 comments from various stakeholders. After consideration of the comments, the office determined that revisions to the proposed regulations were needed. So the first key revision includes a streamlining of the patient registration process. This streamlining would allow for an auto registration and is a critical revision that will help expedite access to medical cannabis for certified patients. Patients will no longer be required to separately file a registration with the office after receiving their certification from a practitioner. The patient could take that certification and go to a dispensing site, which is more in line with how a pharmacy works with normal prescriptions. We believe that this will have a very positive impact on the program and will save time for patients and the office in processing registrations. Another revision was to modify the packaging, labeling, marketing, and advertising requirements so that we could more closely align with adult use packaging, labeling, and advertising proposed regulations. The regulations also removed prior written approval requirements for medical cannabis products. And finally, after considering public comments in support of having in-person pharmacist supervision, the remote supervision by pharmacists was removed. If the Cannabis Control Board votes to file the revised regulations today, this will trigger a new 45-day public comment period. This comment period would begin on August 3rd, when the first opportunity for the regulations to appear in the state register. Thank you for the opportunity to highlight these key changes, and I would be happy to answer any questions if any board members have them.
Thank you, Hera. Before we open it up to questions to the board, I am going to ask if Member Metzger will speak to some of the energy and environmental additions that have been made to these regulations as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm sorry I'm not there with you in person in Buffalo today, but look forward to joining colleagues on our farm tour tomorrow. So when New York's medical cannabis program was created under the Compassionate Care Act, signed into law back in July 2014, the climate and environmental impact of the industry wasn't really on anyone's radar. But a lot has changed since then. In 2019, New York passed the most forward-looking climate legislation in the country, requiring that we reduce statewide greenhouse gas emissions below 1990 levels by 40% by 2030. That's just 8 years from now, and by 85% by 2050. And it requires that we do so equitably, prioritizing those communities that have been historically disadvantaged and have suffered disproportionately from environmental harms. The Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act reflects the climate law that was passed, recognizing that we have to minimize the climate, environmental impacts, and of course, really centers equity. The board is given the authority under the MRTA to promulgate environmental and energy regulations for the industry, and we're also directed to consider energy and environmental impact in the evaluation of license applications. So, why is this important for the cannabis industry? As states have legalized cannabis and legal production has increased, there is now research and data showing that cannabis, though green, has a footprint that has not been green in many places. Next door in Massachusetts, cannabis production has been estimated to account for about 10% of the state's industrial electricity consumption. In Denver, Colorado, the industry accounted for fully 4% of the city's greenhouse gas emissions. It doesn't have to be this way, and states are increasingly improving policies and regulations to reduce the impact. We recognize in New York that business as usual does not suffice in the face of an existential climate threat. And as with other aspects of cannabis policy, we're learning from the experiences of other states and are committed to forging a more sustainable path. The provisions in these regulations are the beginning, not the end. We're working on a more comprehensive set of regulations and programs, but we are making a start in these regulations by including a requirement for annual benchmarking of energy and water usage so that we can track consumption over time and document improvements. The regulations also include standards for lighting and dehumidification systems. Additionally, as Nicole mentioned, the packaging standards that have been released for public comment in the adult use program, those standards include environmental standards and a sustainability program requirement, and those are mirrored in these proposed regulations. And finally, these regulations set standards for the disposal of plant waste, discouraging the landfilling of large quantities of organic waste, which is a major source of climate-damaging methane emissions. That waste can be put to more productive uses, such as compost that can be used as a soil amendment to improve soil health, or as an input into making other products and creating a more circular economy. As I mentioned, we're in the process of developing industry-wide regulations. In the meantime, additional guidance will be issued by the Office for ROs to provide clarity on what will be required for any medical expansion. And just, as an aside, in my view, I think it's really important for the medical cannabis industry, which under the law has to grow indoors, to move in the direction of mixed light or greenhouse grow, to integrate in new facilities, if they expand, to integrate natural light in cultivation. Some ROs are already doing this. It is a plant, after all, and does not need to rely on powerful artificial lighting alone 12 hours a day, 365 days a year, when the sun is freely available. And integrating natural light will greatly reduce both electricity usage and costs, and it's also better for the health of employees. So that's my comments. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Are there any additional, is there any discussion, comments, or questions from the rest of the board related to the regs? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to call for the vote. Ms. Metzger?
Aye.
Ms. Garcia?
Aye.
Mr. McDaniel?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
And I vote in favor as well. Therefore, the motion to approve resolution number 2022-23, directing the Office of Cannabis Management to file certain revised proposed medical cannabis regulations carries. This is a wonderful lift. And now we're going to continue to move forward with the agenda. And I'd like to ask our Executive Director, Chris Alexander, to please present the Executive Director's report, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, board members, for continuing the important work of advancing the Seeding Opportunity Initiative. As mentioned earlier, we've been continuing our Get Ready, Get Set workshops to prepare eligible New Yorkers for the conditional adult use retail dispensary license opportunity and advancing the Seeding Opportunity Initiative. We're focusing on engaging individuals with cannabis convictions, community-based organizations, business groups, and really folks who are on the ground and able to pull in others that may be able to benefit from this program. We started with virtual workshops and listening sessions and are now taking the program on the road. I had a great discussion and event here in Buffalo last night, and really honored to continue to engage with community members at that level. With the board's approval of the conditional adult use retail dispensary application today, we will now step these workshops up a notch to help make sure applicants are not only aware of the opportunity, but also that they know the specific documentation that they should start gathering now so that they're ready when the application opens later this summer. We already have events scheduled in Brooklyn, Buffalo, Schoharie County, Ulster County, Manhattan, Queens, and Harlem. And we're looking to add more to that list to make sure that folks have all the information that they need to prepare. On an additional note, as part of the Seeding Opportunity Initiative, immediately following this meeting, we're going to kick off a 2-day tour of some of our adult use conditional cultivator farms, starting with the farm right here in Erie County. New York's farmers have been hard at work getting their crop ready. And with the application for the dispensaries approved today, it's a great opportunity to go see the plants that are already in the ground and growing the product that these dispensaries will sell when they open later this year. We'll be sharing our adventure with the public too and provide a window into how we're advancing the initiative and getting New York's industry started with these small farmers. And so with that, I'd like to make sure that we are directing members of the public to tap in with us on social media at NYS_cannabis on Twitter and Instagram so you can see our journey today. I'd also like to provide a quick update on the Cannabis Advisory Board. Since the last control board meeting, the Cannabis Advisory Board held its first meeting on June 30th. Having the advisory board online is a terrific step forward in the development of the office and the implementation of the MRTA. This secondary board, is a real opportunity to bring a wide swath of perspectives to the table and to help inform the process of building and regulating the most equitable and inclusive industry in the nation. Under the MRTA, the advisory board's voting members must have statewide geographic representation and includes individuals with expertise in public and behavioral health, substance use disorder treatment, effective rehabilitative treatment for adults and juveniles, homelessness and housing, economic development, environmental conservation, job training and placement, criminal justice, and drug policy. The MRTA designates that board, the primary purpose of that board, with overseeing the disbursements of New York State Community Grants Reinvestment Fund. That fund is supported by 40% of industry revenues, with another 40 bolstering the state's public education system, and the remaining 20 going to support drug treatment and prevention programs across the state. Grants from that fund will be distributed to help revitalize communities across the state that are most impacted by prohibition, and they will be delivered to nonprofits, community-based organizations who are working to support job training, continuing adult education, economic development projects, and other investments to renew and rejuvenate communities. So we're really excited that that board is up and running, and I'll continue to use my executive director reports to provide an update on their activities as well to the control board. Additionally, under the MRTA, that board advises on proposed regulations. To effectuate that consultation, we look forward to engaging with them in the process. However, the sole body charged with the approval of regulations remains the Cannabis Control Board, so that engagement will occur during the public comment period. We look forward to our next advisory board meeting that will be scheduled later this summer. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions from the board? Comments? So then, as we prepare to close, I want to note that the time, location, and a live stream link will be shared on cannabis.ny.gov in advance of the next Cannabis Control Board meeting, and a recording of today's meeting minutes, and a transcription will be posted as well. So that concludes today's agenda items. And so may I please have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded. If there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And so I was going to say this meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.